Thank you.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Dr. Fitz, Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Here. Unless there's any changes or corrections or additions to the last month's meeting minutes, motion to accept, please.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Lockwood, second by Mr. Howell.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Pass.
No, yes. With the minutes.
She wasn't here.
Oh, you wasn't here. That's right. That's right.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Before we begin our hearing tonight, our counselor, Mr. Hoy Hodges, will tell you what you have to do to get your request approved. Mr. Hodges?
Mr. Chairman, on all these applications tonight, I've asked that the joint zoning ordinance, along with the comprehensive plan, be made a part of the record, that the staff report and any exhibits which may be attached to the report should also be made a part of the record. And also, as a preliminary matter, we would ask that Jenny Willoughby, Rachel Hurt, and Amy Scott be sworn in, and their qualifications as zoning administrators be recognized, and that their testimony be recognized as expert testimony.
Y'all swear to tell the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You see, the first three items on the agenda tonight are all requests for variances. And there are certain findings that the board must make, and those are set forth in KRS 100.243. The board must find that the requested variance will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, that it will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, that it will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, that it will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. These being requests for waivers, there's also additional findings the board must make, set forth in section 3.8.4 of the zoning ordinance. All of the other items are requests for conditional use permits. And there are certain findings the board must make. Those are set forth in section 3.9.5 of the zoning ordinance. The board must find that the requested conditional use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zones in which it is proposed, that the use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services, that the use is in compliance with the other zoning regulations, including any specific use standards which may apply, and also that the use will not constitute a nuisance. And with these conditional use permits, there's another section you have to comply with, section 3.9.4. And that section states that you as an applicant have the burden of adequately addressing all of this. There's 9 set of criteria set forth in section 3.9.4, and one of those is compatibility. And the section says that the board shall not approve your request for conditional use permit unless you first adequately address that review criteria. So that is a burden that the applicant should keep in mind. If you are dissatisfied with the decision here tonight, you have 30 days to file an appeal, and that will go directly to Warren Circuit Court. In order to prevail, you need a majority vote, and my math says that is 4 votes. A pass vote has no force or effect, and I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Our first request tonight, Terry Pulaski has filed an application requesting a waiver to allow an existing detached building to be located in front of the primary residence on the property located at 11136 Porter Pike. Now, this property is owned RE Residential Estate. Ms. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in April for the property you just referenced, located on Porter Pike. The current zoning, as you mentioned, is RE Residential Estate, and the current use is also single-family residential. And the applicants have requested a waiver in order to allow An existing detached building to be located in front of the primary residence that is currently under construction. Both of those structures are shown on this exhibit. Looking at the zoning ordinance reference on page 1, you'll see that section 445E1 states that in the RE zone, no accessory building or structure shall extend beyond the front of the principal structure. The waiver findings are included for your reference on page 1 and 2. And then on page 2, the applicant also provided a justification statement to address those findings. That's there for your reference in the italicized text. And then on page 1, we have a couple of items for your consideration. The first is that the board should consider if the requested waiver arises from special circumstances which do not generally apply to land in the general vicinity, or if there are any extraordinary or exceptional topographical conditions that would deprive the property owner of reasonable use of the land. And second, the board should consider if the proposed waiver will alter the character of the general vicinity. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, any questions from the staff of the board, from the board of the staff? Any questions? Is the applicant here? Applicants are here. Does the board have any questions of the applicant? Any opposition to this request? We have any opposition? Yes, sir. Would you come up? We'll need to swear you in, so you could give them your full name and address, please.
It's Brandon James Flynn, and I live at 170 Winston Road, Oakland, Kentucky, 42159.
You swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, go right ahead.
I just have an issue. So there is one thing that's on that exhibit that is wrong. So the existing shop that's already on there, there was a driveway that was put in coming up Winston, which was put in place, and it crosses the Winston Road address onto the Porter Pike address. So I live at the first house on the right at 170 Winston Road. When that was put in, it created, there's a natural pond, which you can see it on that overlay right there. There's a natural pond, and there's an easement of water that runs down to that. When he put in that driveway crossing the two, I guess you call them lots at the time, it created a swamp in my front yard, and I did contact the PVA and then the judge magistrate, and I was told that there's nothing that could be done about it other than, I believe they put a cease and desist order on that building until it was resolved. I guess some kind of penalty or fine was paid. So I've already dealt with that issue. Now the building that is already there, and he's proposed to put that home behind it, that home is on the back corner of my property, which is probably about 15 feet from a swing set where my kids play. I believe that having that there is going to give me a decreased property value when I do try to sell the property. For one. For two, I know that the home has already started to be built. I do know that it's already framed behind the garage. So, I mean, my only concern basically is that I've already had an issue with one thing that has happened between these two properties owned by the same person, and I'm afraid that that home going in there will cause even more property devaluation when I try to resell my home.
The part about where the house is located, apparently it's within the setback, is it, Rachel? The house or building?
It's a 10-foot setback.
So it's within the-
It means
that-
that it's shown on the exhibit.
Right.
That part is okay, I mean, that part's legal.
Correct.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Correct.
But we'll let him address your other concerns. Does the board have any questions of this gentleman? Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, sir, other than I appreciate you guys' time. I mean,
Sure.
That's
Thank you.
it.
I have a question. You said you live on, is it Lot 5?
It's 170 Winston Road. It is the first home on the right. I think, that's hard for me to see up there. That house right, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That one right there.
Sure. Okay. That satisfy you, Mr.? You good, Lloyd?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Hold it out. Is it okay if I touch it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, this
That where that house?
property right here.
Right there.
That's
Okay.
where he lives.
I got you. I was thinking it was on the left there. Okay. And the terrain of the land goes down towards you.
Yes, sir. So the back of my property line, I've got maybe 20 feet of level ground, which is that I've got a shed there for my mower and stuff, and then that's where we put the kids' swing set, and everything from there comes down, and it goes towards the road, and then okay, and then this house here, which were all new builds, they were all built at the same time. It's a natural easement that slopes towards that pond. So it's mainly just a rainwater thing.
Okay. All right, any other questions of the gentleman? Thank you, sir. We
Thank you.
Would the applicant step, any other opposition to this request before I let, just step up, please? We'll need to swear you in also. If you give them your full name and address, please.
Terry Pulowski. My current address is 800 Wade Road.
Okay. You swear to tell the truth, sir?
I do.
You heard his concerns. How would you like to address those?
I would like to address that also. What he is not telling you is that he is already encroaching on my property. He has a portable shed back there that is not set 5 foot off the back and the sides of the line. It's actually up to the line, and I know that's a setback rule in Kentucky. I believe the swing set is also getting close to the property line, which is also encroaching on my property.
What about the driveway, or the water flow from the driveway?
When I had the driveway installed, he actually had come over and talked to the gentleman that was doing my driveway at the time, and that gentleman also told him that there was really nothing he could do. He put the drainage pipe in the correct place where it's supposed to be. Craig Hunt, the inspector, came out and looked at it, and he also stated that it couldn't be in a better spot for the drainage up front there.
I've got a question. If the address is Porter Pike, why is the driveway off of Winston Avenue?
Because I actually owned that acre and a half there as well. I gifted it to my daughter last year, and I'm getting ready to put a new driveway in off of Porter Pike.
To go back to the house that you're building?
Mm-hmm.
So will this existing driveway be done away with?
Now, at some point, my daughter is going to build her house there on that piece of property that she now owns.
But you're going
On
to,
the Winston Road property.
Yes.
Right, on the
Yes,
Winston
correct.
Road property.
so right now, this driveway is just a temporary driveway.
Yes, it's just a temporary driveway.
So when they get ready to build the other house, does this issue come up, Rachel?
I'm sorry?
I was asking the
Oh.
staff center.
The issue of what?
Of the driveway,
Well, if it stays where it is, then they wouldn't need any additional approvals.
Okay,
But
alright.
if the new home is built and they wanted to relocate the driveway to a different side, then that would require
okay,
coordination with the Public Works
okay,
Department.
all right. All right. Any other questions from the board of the gentleman there? Questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
All right, motion, please.
Let me, Mike, for clarification, this application applies to the auxiliary structure, has nothing to do
Do
with
with
the
the
house,
driveway,
correct?
all right.
Right, the application for your consideration this evening, the request is to allow the accessory building to be in front of the home. Normally, the home is there and someone requests a waiver to build a new accessory building in front of the home, but in this case, the existing building is there and they want to build the home behind the auxiliary building.
I just wanted to make sure I was
Yeah.
clear on what we were approving or denying.
That's like the one we just had last month out Cemetery Road where the barn was there, remember? And they want to build a house behind it. So, yes, we're looking at the building, not the
Right.
driveway, yes.
Right,
Okay,
got it.
all right. Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the request for a waiver at 11136 Porter Pike, docket number 2024-B-08. A waiver to allow an accessory building or structure to extend beyond the front of the principal structure. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the granting of these waivers will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. I further find that the waivers will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of the waivers of the regulation is the minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicants and the requested waivers arise from special circumstances which do not generally apply to the land in the general vicinity of the same zone.
That's a proper motion.
Okay. Motion, Ms. Atkinson, second. Second, who seconded? Who? Mr. Lockwood? Second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thank you for coming down. Our next request tonight, Brandy, Hennon, has filed an application requesting a waiver to allow an accessory structure to be located in front of the primary residence on the property located at 385 Woodburn Allen Springs Road. And this property is zoned GB General Business. Rachel.
Thank you, Chair Davenport. We had a pre-application meeting back in April for the property just referenced, located on Woodburn Allen Springs Road. The zoning, as you mentioned, is general business, and the current land use is single-family residential. This is a similar request in that the applicant has applied for a waiver to allow a proposed accessory structure, more specifically a detached garage, to be located in front of the primary residence. And you can see the exhibit that was submitted by the applicant. The proposed building envelope is outlined in red. And you'll see the zoning ordinance reference in the middle of page 1. Basically, single-family uses are allowed in the general business zone under the RS1D development standards, which also states that the accessory building or structure cannot be located in front of the principal structure. And since this is a lot with multiple frontages, if we go back to the aerial view here, you'll see that there are actually multiple frontages for this property, and so there's virtually almost nowhere that any type of accessory building could be located because of the requirements of the ordinance. So with that, the waiver findings are there for your reference. The applicant supplied a narrative on page 2 to justify those findings, and the staff did not have any points for your consideration. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board or the staff? Is the applicant here? You're the applicant, okay. Does the board have any questions of the applicant? Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the request for the waiver at 385 Woodburn Allen Springs Road, docket number 2024-V-09, a waiver to allow an accessory building or structure to extend beyond the front of the principal structure. The testimony presented in the public hearing has shown that the granting of these waivers will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. I further find that the waivers will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of the waivers of the regulation is a minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicants, and the strict application of the provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicants of a reasonable use of the land and would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicants.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Howell.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
excuse me, Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved, ma'am. Thank you very much. Those of you that have already had your hearing, you're welcome to leave. You don't have to stay around. I mean, you're welcome to go, but you can stay if you want to, but it might get a little boring after a while for you. But, okay, our next request tonight, Paul and Doris Scannell have filed an application requesting a waiver from the maximum lot coverage requirement in the RE residential estate zone on the property located at 216 Silver Springs Avenue. And this property zone is RE residential estate. Rachel, you still up there?
I'm still here. Last
Okay.
one for me, and then I'll turn it over to somebody else.
All right.
We had a pre-application meeting back in March for the property at 216 Silver Springs Avenue. The current zoning is RE residential estate, and the current land use is also single-family residential. The applicants have requested a waiver from the maximum lot coverage permitted in the RE zone to allow a total lot coverage of 43% in order to construct a detached building, which is shown in blue. You'll see in the middle of page 1, the zoning ordinance reference, section 445B, the maximum allowable lot coverage in the RE zone is 30%, so they're requesting a waiver of 13%, again, for a total of 43% lot coverage. The waiver findings are there for your reference, and then the applicant supplied a justification statement on page 2. We have a couple of points for you to consider. The first is that the board should consider if the requested waiver arises from special circumstances which do not apply to land in the general vicinity, or if there are any extraordinary or exceptional topographical conditions that would deprive the property owner of the reasonable use of the land. The board should also consider if the proposed waiver will alter the essential character of the general vicinity, as there are no other properties in the Silver Springs neighborhood that have a lot coverage of 43%. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board or the staff? From the board or the staff? Is the applicant here? Okay. Is there any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Rachel, I did notice a couple other houses there, though, that had the same type of structure they're trying to do on their lot, and I really couldn't tell if it was within the 30% or 43% guideline or not. You know what I'm saying? What they're doing is, there's some other buildings there on some other houses that are behind the...
Sure. I guess we did do an aerial view. We looked at the neighborhood, and we didn't find any properties that we felt were over the maximum lot coverage. And assuming those structures are properly permitted, that's something that's verified when the building permit comes in.
I don't recall us giving any variances for those buildings on those lots anytime in the past, but it could be. Anyway, I just noticed some other garages behind the properties like they're doing.
Sure.
All right, any opposition to this request? All right, motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the request for a waiver at 216 Silver Springs Avenue, docket number 2024-B-10, a waiver of 13% to allow a total lot coverage of 43% for the property. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the granting of these waivers will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare, will not alter the essential character of the general vicinity, will not cause a hazard or a nuisance to the public, and will not allow an unreasonable circumvention of the requirements of the zoning regulations. I further find that the waivers will not violate the comprehensive plan, and the extent of the waivers of the regulation is the minimum necessary to afford relief to the applicants. The strict application of the provisions of the regulations would deprive the applicants of a reasonable use of the land or would create an unnecessary hardship on the applicant.
Okay. We have a proper motion?
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
sir.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by
Second.
Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved. Thank you all for coming down. Appreciate it. Our next request tonight, Ashby Holdings LLC, care of John and Jennifer Holloman, have filed an application for conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 1213 East 14th Avenue. And this property is zoned RM3 Townhouse Multifamily Residential. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting back in March for the property on East 14th Avenue. The current zoning of the property is RM3. Current land use is single-family residential, and their site plan is there for your reference. It's also on page 7 of your staff report. So the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. The zoning ordinance reference is there in the middle of page 1 for your all's look. Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RM3. Looking down, the specific use standards are on the bottom of page 1, moving over to page 2, and then we'll look at their supplied conditions. Number 1, there was a maximum of 2 rooms for rent. Number 2, maximum of 4 guest vehicles in the designated parking areas. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 4, no signage on the property. And number 5, if the property is ever sold, the CUP will be null and void. The conditional use permit findings are there below for everyone's reference. And so looking back to page 1 with some points to consider, We have a couple. The Board of Adjustment should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, including the existing single-family residential uses located in the immediate vicinity and adjacent to the property. The board should also consider the impact on permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the city if the existing single-family residence is converted into a short-term rental. The board should consider if 2 short-term rentals within 200 feet is appropriate. And the board should finally consider if 4 parking spaces for a 2-bedroom short-term rental is appropriate, and if the additional pavement proposed is compatible with the area. And that's all that I have, but I'm happy to answer anyone's questions.
Any questions from the staff of the board? Board have any questions, staff? Are the applicants here? I'm sure we're going to have a question for you, sir, if you don't mind stepping up. We need to swear you in, your full
Yes,
name and
sir.
address,
John Holloman, 1213 East 14th Avenue.
and you swear to tell the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
First question is, how do you think this business, mini hotel, fits in with that neighborhood that's pretty much single-family residential?
My answer to that question is, just for my proposal, is for a need on some affordable transition housing. I see a lot of that with graduate students at WKU, as well as with me working in the construction industry. There's a lot of people moving in with new factories in areas where they don't have a place where they can bring their families and stay for 1 month, 2 month, or 3 month with furnishings to find a place in Bowling Green that they're comfortable with and safe neighborhood. And so I think this option allows a place for that option for graduate students and families in transition with the amount of increase we've had in people moving to the city. And that's all I have for that, sir.
Isn't short-term rental limited to 7 days,
No, it's 30 days or less.
30 days or less? Less than 30 days, okay. Any other questions from the board of the applicant?
Now, do you live at this property?
Yes, ma'am. So we currently live there, and this was just something that we proposed. We are actually relocating due to family getting a larger house and actually having a kid. So this property was not going to work for us, so we were trying to see what options we had when we moved out. So this won't probably be converted for a few months if we are approved.
Well, the problem is you're putting a business in a single-family neighborhood. Even though you may not look at it as a business, it is a business. And rather than having renters there all the time, we're having people coming in and out for 3 and 4 day stays. Mostly that's what short-term rentals end up being is weekends. And it's a magnet for parties and
Under 30 days.
under 30
Under
days.
30 days.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, can I speak on that, sir?
Sure, you can.
One thing is, there is one that just got approved right down the street, whether that's for consideration or not, but it is definitely being used as Airbnb property. And I will say that in my experience, we've been doing a couple of these, and we set the hours of operation from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. for that reason. And with us living there here legally for the last year, the party, I would like to not be that in consideration, because our neighbors currently who are long-term tenants have woken me up at 3 a.m. countless times because of the lack of noise ordinance or the lack of a homeowner being able to do what they can do in that neighborhood. And short-term rentals allow you to have more legislation to eliminate that issue at a quicker standard for the surrounding people that have a residential home.
Okay. Any other questions from the board of the applicant? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your time.
Any opposition to this request? Yes, ma'am. We need to swear you in. Your full name and address, please.
Fawn Michelle Quick, 2000 Price Avenue, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42104.
I'm sorry. You swear to tell the truth?
I swear to tell the
Go
truth.
right ahead.
What did you ask? You wanted somebody that,
If you're in opposition to his request.
okay. I'm not sure if this is just an in general question, if it's exactly opposition or not.
Okay.
I'm asking a question about this 14th Avenue East, Bowling Green, 42104, off of Small House, maybe half a mile street between Small House and 31W Bypass. My question is, how many of these units / buildings on this street are business, commercial, short-term, multifamily, or without a host living in the property, versus how many are single-family? Do
In
we
that
know
block, it's all single-family. On the block closer to the bypass on down further, there's a couple of businesses there. That's why that one, I think, was approved for that area. But in the area that you're talking about, it's pretty much residential. There's no businesses on that street I'm aware of. Yeah.
She's got a layout of
So
the
on this map,
zoning.
on this map, this yellow color is single-family residential. And so all of this area is single-family.
Yeah, sure
So,
do.
Okay, I know, can I ask if the pottery, Mitchell Rickman Pottery Barn, is that single-family?
we need to figure out where
I don't think it's on 14th Street, is
It's
it?
not.
It's not on 14th Street. It's a
It's
different
on,
place.
it doesn't face 14th Street. It's on the corner. It's on Magnolia. It faces Magnolia.
But anyway, back to this property. Have you got any problem with this issue here?
And that's, okay, what about another one, Moran's?
Again, it faces, that is on Magnolia. It's not on 14th.
Okay, but Rickman Pottery is not the same as Moran.
No, understand.
And then Mike Reynolds owns a single-family, I mean, not a
Not
single,
sure.
no, a commercial, 3 garages.
Okay, not sure about that.
Okay, they're not on here.
Our issue here is if this particular home is in an area that is primarily single-family. Because short-term rental properties are considered a commercial, that it is a business, because somebody's making money off of the property in a different way.
So there's not just a number that you have in mind?
No.
No numbers? Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other opposition to this request? Motion, please.
I make the motion to deny the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-10 for a short-term rental located at 1213 East 14th Avenue. The use does not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and is not compatible with the surrounding single-family neighborhood.
That is proper motion.
Okay, motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
No.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes. Your request has been denied, sir. You've got 30 days to appeal it to circuit court. Our next request tonight, Wayne Dickens applicant and 562 Main LLC, care of Majendran Danpal and Amy Stephen, owner, have filed an application for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 562 East Main Avenue, apartment A3. This property is zone RM-3, townhouse multifamily residential. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had the pre-application meeting back in February. This property has come before you all, so it may look familiar. It has come before you before. And looking down to their request, the current zoning is RM4. Current land use is multifamily residential. And their site plan is on page 7 for your all's reference. They are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental in the existing 8-unit condominium complex. A CUP was approved in 2023 for 6 short-term rentals at this location, and the applicant for Unit A3 is seeking the CUP because the condition was placed in the 2023 application that nullifies the CUP if any of the properties are ever sold, and so this was recently sold, and they're coming back before you all. Zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RM4. Specific use standards are there on the bottom of page 1 for y'all's reference, and then looking over to page 2 to their conditions. Number 1, maximum of 2 rooms for rent. Number 2, maximum of 2 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And number 4, there will be no signage on the property. And these conditions are identical to the 2023 conditions, minus the conditions stating if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. The conditional use permit findings are there on the bottom of page 2. And then looking back to page 1, there are no points to consider pending public hearing and the testimony here tonight.
Okay. Any questions from the board or the staff? Questions, staff? Applicant here? There you are. Any opposition to this request? Any opposition? Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-12 for short-term rentals located at 562 East Main Avenue, Unit A3, with the conditions as presented. There are no, but with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed. The use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
That is a proper motion.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thank you all for coming down. Yeah. You've already got it approved. You don't want to mess it up now. We can always undo it.
Well, I'm not speaking on behalf of mine, but I did just want to give the court some information on the one you guys just denied. So, two things. Number one-
No, we're not going back to that one.
Well, I just wanted to just give you guys some information.
If it's in regards to the ones on the table here, we'll talk about it, but if it's something that we've already done, no, sorry. We have no reason to talk about it. All righty, our next request tonight, Anthony Snodgrass has filed an application for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 253 Donald Drive. This property is zoned RE Residential Estate. Yes, ma'am.
Me again. So we had the pre-application meeting back in April for the property over on Donald Drive. Current zoning is RE, current land use is single-family residential. And there is their site plan for reference. It's also on, I guess it's page 8 this time, for your reference. The applicant is requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. Article 5, Section 5.1 of the use table, a conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RE. The specific use standards for short-term rentals is there on the bottom of page 2, and then bottom of page 1, excuse me. Moving over to page 2 for looking at the conditions. Number 1, a maximum of 3 rooms will be for rent. Number 2, quiet hours will be from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 3, there will be no signage on the property. Number 4, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. And number 5, the applicant will be present across from the short-term rental site at their permanent residence located at 270 Donald Drive during times of occupancy. The conditional use permit findings are there for your all's reference. And then looking back to page 1, for the points to consider, the board should consider the impact on permanent workforce housing availability in this part of the city if the existing single-family home is converted into a short-term rental. And the board should consider if the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, including the existing single-family residential uses adjacent to the property. And that's all that I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the board or the staff? Board got any questions? Applicant here? Yes, ma'am. Would you all come up, please? One of you. Yeah, which one wants to do? Yeah.
Hello, I'm Bridget Snodgrass, 270 Donald Drive.
And you swear to tell the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're going to speak to when he swear you in too? You're not going to? Okay.
I think he's here for moral support.
All right. First question we got is how does this business, mini hotel, fit in with obviously a neighborhood that's single-family residential?
Sure. There is actually an Airbnb at the end of our road, right there on that same road. There's one that's already been approved. And I think it's probably, we're close to Beach Bend. We're like 5 miles from Beach Bend or 2 miles from the Corvette Museum. So I think it would be good for tourism.
Mm-hmm. The one you're talking about is on Porter Pike, if I'm not mistaken. It faces, it's got a Porter Pike address.
Okay, yes.
Right. And it's a small apartment that's next door to the house where the owner lives in it, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
I think it's a house, I think.
I'm pretty sure it's correct. But even though it looks like it's on the same street, it's on a Porter Pike address. And your street is obviously single-family residential, as is the street, Low Drive behind it. And you're trying to put a business in there with people coming and going constantly. It's a business.
Well, we live
Hasn't it?
across the street. Our permanent address is across the street, so we would be there the whole time that it was rented out.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the board or the applicant? All right. Any opposition to this request? Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Any opposition to this request? Motion, please.
I make the motion to deny the conditional use permit, docket number 2024-C-13, for a short-term rental located at 253 Donald Drive. The use does not meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance and is not compatible with the surrounding single-family neighborhood.
That is a proper motion.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by
Second.
Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes. Sorry, your request has been denied. Thank you for coming down. Our next request tonight, River LLC, care of Kevin L. Goff, has filed an application for conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 687 Beach Bend Road. This property is zoned RE Residential Estate. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we had a pre-application meeting on April the 10th for the property that you mentioned. The current zoning is RE and F for floodplain. The current land use is single-family residential, and the applicant did supply a couple of site plans that start on page 7 for your reference. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental. The applicant received approval for a short-term rental on the adjacent property to the east in 2023. If this application is approved, the applicants have agreed to nullify the short-term rental for the adjacent property. So looking below that is the zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1. Conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned RE. Below that are the specific use standards for short-term rental. And if we look over at page 2 for the conditions, maximum of 3 rooms for rent. Number 2, maximum of 3 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet time from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 7, property may be rented as a short-term rental for no longer than 7 consecutive days. Number 5, no signage. Number 6, if the property is ever sold or the applicant ceases the use, the CUP will be null and void. Number 7, if this property is approved for a conditional use permit, the conditional use permit for 747 Beach Bend Road shall become null and void without prejudice. And number 8, significant foliage will be maintained on the property lines to limit visibility from adjoining property owners. And we just wanted to point out that these conditions are more restrictive than the conditions that were approved for 747 Beach Bend Road in 2023.
Okay. Any questions from the, I'm sorry, were you done? I'm sorry.
Almost.
I'm sorry, I
Below
didn't
that
mean to
are
do
the
that.
conditional use findings for your reference, but if we flip back over to page 1, under points to consider, there are none pending public hearing and testimony.
I didn't
And
mean to
now
cut
I'm
you
done.
off, I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
All right, any questions from the board of the staff? Applicants here? All right, any questions of the applicant from the board? Any opposition to this request? Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit, docket number 2024-C-14, for a short-term rental located at 687 Beach Bend Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed. The use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Proper motion.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Howell? Okay, Mr. Howell. Sorry, I thought you nodded yes.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
No, and the reason being is the zoning. I feel we should be consistent in whether it be RM2, RM3, RM4, or residential. And in my eyes, it's not consistent with what we should be doing.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
No, for the same reasons, Mr. Ferguson.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thank you very much for coming down.
No, Four.
Yeah, we had 4.
okay, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And right, we had 4, didn't we? 4 yes?
Yeah, yes.
Danny, you, me?
Yes.
Our next request, Bryant and Gina Smith have filed an application for a conditional use permit to operate a short-term rental on the property located at 5952 Glen Lily Road. Now, this property is zoned AG agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on April the 10th for the property that you mentioned. The current zoning is agriculture. The current land use is agriculture. And again, the applicants are requesting a CUP to operate a short-term rental, and their site plan can be found on page 7 for your reference. Below that is a zoning ordinance reference, section 5.1, use table. A conditional use permit is required to operate a short-term rental on property zoned agriculture. Below that are the specific use standards for short-term rentals. Looking over at page 2 for the supplied conditions. Number 1, maximum of 1 bedroom for rent. Number 2, a maximum of 2 guest vehicles in the designated parking area. Number 3, quiet time will be from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Number 4, there will be no signage on the property. Number 5, if the property is ever sold, the CUP will be null and void. Looking back to page 1, to points to consider, there are none pending public hearing and testimony. That's all we have for a staff report, but can answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions from the board of the staff? Applicants here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does the board have any questions of the applicants? I don't think you got a lot of single-family neighborhoods around there. Yes, ma'am.
I'm at 6100.
You want to come up to? It's all right. We still need to swear you in. Your full name and address, please.
Annette Fortier, 6100 Glen Lily Road,
All right.
Bowling Green.
You swear to tell the truth?
I do.
And go ahead.
I was wondering what was the plan? Is it there, who's going to be renting it? For the short term. I'm worried about guns and for hunting mainly.
We'll let
Because my property, there's nobody around me except for on the left side.
Okay.
There's one other home.
Mhm.
And it's all down woods and everything behind us. And I'm just wondering who's going to be coming and going? What kind of business that you think it's going to be?
We'll let the applicant address that question. Is that all you had, ma'am?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. We'll need to swear you in now, sir.
Bryant Smith, 3323 Kyle Court, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42104.
And you swear to tell the truth?
I swear.
You heard her concerns there.
There will be absolutely no hunting on that property. I do not hunt it. I don't want anybody else hunting it. It will be for people that will be maybe, I've got a son that's got Airbnb, a mile crow flying from there. It's people from maybe Florida coming into the Corvette Museum, coming in for this or that. He has never had a problem with anyone, and I don't mean to sound mean, but I won't put up with a problem from anyone else.
How's it being used right now? It's hard to even see that place down there, I'll be honest with you.
We will leave here and go there, and this weekend, tonight, we'll stay there. And
So you stay
tomorrow
there?
night- Yes, we stay there
Off
every
and
now
on?
and then. Weekends, we stay there
Okay.
some, yes.
And
yes.
okay, and you're going to rent it out other times?
And we have not 100% decided that we will do Airbnb. We're renting it out,
Okay,
but,
all right.
you know.
All right, thank you, Barry. I'm sorry, any questions from the board of the applicant? Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Any other oppositions or questions? Motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-15 for a short-term rental located at 5952 Glen Lily Road with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed. The use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of a zoning ordinance.
Okay.
Proper motion.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson,
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson,
Yes.
Mr. Howell,
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood,
Yes.
Ms. Price,
Yes.
Chair Davenport.
Yes, your request has been approved, sir. Thank you all very much. Our next request tonight, Charles Edwin O'Connell, applicant, and City of Bowling Green owner, have filed an application for conditional use permit for a composting operation to be located on the property at 5301 Glen Lily Road. And this property is currently zoned AG agricultural. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a pre-application meeting on March the 7th for the property that you outlined. The current zoning is agriculture, and the current land use is public. The applicant is requesting a CUP to operate a waste-related use, more specifically mulch and composting operation. The total size of the property is over 72 acres. However, the applicant is only leasing 5.20 acres from the property owner for the requested use. And the applicant did supply 2 site plans on pages 7 and 8 for your reference. Below that is a zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1, the use table. A conditional use permit is required to operate a waste-related use on the property, on property zoned agriculture. Below that is a zoning ordinance reference for mulch and wood operations. I don't know that this board has maybe seen this application type in a while, so there's that for your reference. Looking over on page 2 are their conditions. We can go over those. The days and hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Additional weekend hours are by appointment only to accommodate compost sales. Weekend hours are Sunday and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Number 2, the maximum number of customers on site will be 25. 3 road turnouts between the entrance and the site will allow for cars to pass each other, and these are shown on the attached site plan. Number 3, all composting operations will occur within the 5.20 acre area depicted on the attached site plan. Number 4, visibility from the road. Existing vegetation between the 5.2 acre composting area and the site entrance will be preserved. And number 5, all operations will comply with the permanent environment performance standards outlined in 401 KAR 47030, as well as rules outlined in KRS 224 per the state of Kentucky. Looking back at page 1, 2 points to consider: none, public hearing and testimony. That's all we have for a staff report. Can answer any questions.
All right. Any questions from the staff of the board? Applicants are here? They're here? Okay. Any questions of the applicants from the board? Any opposition to this request? Okay. Yeah, could you step up, please? Yeah, ever who's representing you.
Is this,
We need to swear him in first. Yeah. Can we get your full name and address?
Charles Edwin O'Connell, 533 Cox Thomas Road, Rockfield, Kentucky, 42274.
Do you swear to tell the truth, sir?
I do.
Go ahead. Mr. Lockwood?
is this composting, is this burning composting?
No, sir. No, sir, there will be no burning on site on the 5.2 acres.
Okay, that's no question I have.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Thank you very much, appreciate it. Any opposition to this request? All right, motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-16 for a waste-related use, more specifically a mulch and composting operation located at 5301 Glen Lily Road, with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which they are proposed. The use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
Proper motion? Motion by Ms. Atkinson, second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes.
Chair Davenport?
Yes, your request's been approved. Thank you all very much for coming down tonight. Good luck. We've got one more on here, but I don't see anybody left.
You know, Mr. Chairman, procedurally, what you could do, I've already asked that the staff report and any exhibits be made a part of the record, so that in itself would support a decision. But if you had any questions, or the board had any questions, you could table it for the applicant to come back.
You mean read it anyway and see if we have any, okay, let's go ahead and read it. Lost River Church of Christ has filed an application for a conditional use permit to operate a religious institution on the property located at 662 Dishman Lane. And this property is zoned OP-R Office Professional Residential. You can go ahead and give your staff report, and then we'll see if we can do this.
Okay, we had a pre-application meeting on April the 9th for the property on Dishman Lane. The current zoning is OPR, the current land use is public institutional, and the applicants are requesting a CEP to operate a religious institution, more specifically to expand the existing parking area to include 41 additional parking spaces. And you can kind of see the layout of their proposed parking on the site plan that they supplied on page 7. Below that is a zoning ordinance reference, Article 5, Section 5.1. Conditional use permit is required to operate a religious institution on property zoned OPR. Below that, they supplied one condition: church-related activities shall take place between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. with exceptions for special events. Below that are the conditional use permit findings, but if we go back up to the points to consider, there are none pending public hearing and testimony. That's all we have for a staff report.
I can't read this map very well. Is the additional parking if I'm facing the church to the left-hand side of the church or the right-hand side of the church?
Yeah,
I can't.
I think that it's, so if we go back to the aerial, that might be a little clearer.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's extending it, so they have that on the rear, and it would be extending it to the right.
To the right, okay.
Front right
okay.
corner.
Okay, I see, that's
Yeah.
what I thought, okay. I just want to make sure that's what I was looking at. Does the board have any question about this? We need to have table this next month? We got any problem with it? We can do that without any problem, Ben?
Yes, sir.
Hoy? Okay. No opposition, nobody's here, so motion, please.
I make the motion to approve the conditional use permit docket number 2024-C-17 for a religious institution located at 662 Dishman Lane with the conditions as presented in the staff report. The testimony presented in this public hearing has shown that the use is not detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare in the zone in which it is proposed. The use will not contribute toward an overburdening of municipal services. The use will not result in increased traffic congestion, additional parking problems, substantial increase in population density, environmental problems, or constitute a nuisance, that the use otherwise meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
That is a proper motion.
Motion by Ms. Atkinson. Second by Mr. Lockwood.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Ferguson?
Yes.
Mr. Howell?
Yes.
Mr. Lockwood?
Yes.
Ms. Price?
Yes,
Chair Davenport?
Yes. This is the first time I can remember us doing it like this, but I don't want the Church of Christ mad at me. I don't want them down on us, that's for sure. All righty, that request's been approved. Lloyd, bye. Okay.
This looks like a nice place for a church, is what I was thinking.
All righty, did they just misunderstanding on the meeting, you think, or?
Lost River Church got lost.
I guess I got lost, whatever. Okay. I'm sorry? Yeah, well, sorry. Old business tonight?
No for me.
Any new business? All right, we are adjourned.